Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from ePowerTrade, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, PIC, Feria Racing Components, and Fifth Third Bank Motorsports. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePowerTrade, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 456, and we're going to be talking with Haltech. With me this morning are Judy Keane, the co-founder of ePowerTrade, and a wonderful host, Mr. Jeff Hammond. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We have a huge list of attendees today, so I'm going to take a second, remind everybody, you're welcome to use this platform. Basically, we have suppliers on here showcasing to buyers all around the world. So please use it. We are not e-commerce. If you had interest in a product or services or technology, you reach out to that supplier and you do your business off the platform. So please sign in if you haven't yet and use the platform. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning to you. And that's a very, I guess you might say, eloquent way to say, please join us, because again, we have a lot of fun here with our webinars and our different folks with the products they bring in. And today is no different. We're going to be enlightened by Andrew from Haltech. And Andrew, it's good to see your face. We had a great conversation leading into today. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to give you folks a lot of great information, and we're going to talk about something that is not complicated. Right, Andrew?
That's exactly right. That's why we're here today.
Well, buddy, I tell you, ever since we talked yesterday, I got the stuff rattling around in my little empty head up here about, man, I wonder what he's going to show us, what he's going to tell us. And Judy's already said it. We got a lot of interest here. So as we kind of like arrived at this theory, and everybody out here needs to pay attention to what we're getting ready to say. We're going to work off the KISS theory today. We're going to keep everything simple, stupid, or silly, however you prefer to put it. But I'm really interested about how this thing can give all the technology it does, and as simple as you said it is. So tell us about what's been going on at Haltech here lately, and then let's get into the presentation you have for us.
All right. So some people may or may not be familiar with Haltech as far as an engine management group and all the stuff that we do. So we've prepared a little presentation for everybody. Like you said, we're going to keep it simple, and that is what the Rebel LS ECU package is built around, is simplistic and easy to use, and it just works. So I think, Jeff, we're probably going to jump kind of into the presentation. That way we can actually talk back and forth about some of the stuff. I can tell you a little bit about Haltech's background,
Right.
go through that. And then you were talking to me yesterday. We're going to answer some questions as well. So anybody who's tuned in, make sure you drop a comment, drop a question, and Jeff and I will get to you in a timely manner.
Exactly right. And let's overemphasize that, folks. We're going to get rolling along here, but we're going to pause at different stages. So if you got questions, get them to us so we get an opportunity to answer them while they're still relevant to the part that we just passed through as far as the presentation is concerned. So as you said, kick it off, everybody. I'm going to sit back here. As I said earlier, I'm going to play traffic cop, but I'm going to be along for the ride. All
right. Well, we're excited to, teach you a little something as well. You've got a heck of a background in some of the stuff that you've told me about, and some of the stuff that I figured out myself. So, coming from NASCAR and stuff like that, you are no stranger to a V8. And obviously this kit is for the LS, and that is such a popular engine platform. We're going to get started with the presentation here, and guide me a little bit so I don't go down a rabbit hole that nobody wants to be in.
We'll do it.
All right. So just to understand a little bit better of what we are as a company, we were founded in 1986. We are a global company. We do all of our manufacturing in-house in Australia, and we have sales and tech offices around the world. So it allows us to really take care of the market and answer questions when people have them, because inevitably people are going to have those questions. The main place is in Sydney, Australia. This is the home of all the engineering, manufacturing, marketing service, and they also have sales and tech support there. Now, here where I'm currently located is Lexington, Kentucky. The Kentucky office is home to a lot of inventory, sales, support, and we do a lot of special project here as well. So that's going to be where we end up trying a lot of weird stuff so that you guys don't have to have questions about that. We also have 20 hours, give or take, depending on the time of year, of technical support, thanks to having Australia and Kentucky, and then also California. So that right there is kind of a major thing. Now we have Auckland down in Kiwi land, down in New Zealand. They are servicing that part of the world. Our Manila location is actually a where they do a lot of our office type stuff. And then Vienna, Austria, that is going to service that part of the world. And then Birmingham is going to service a good part of Europe as far as that location for distribution and for sales and tech support. Now, again, you're looking at the map, roll back over here to Kentucky and California. That's where you're going to get all of your tech support during normal business hours, 8 to 5 here in Eastern, and then Pacific time where you guys are. You're going to continue that support right there. So that's where we get our nearly 20 hours of support throughout the world. It's kind of why I started in this industry and coming to Haltech was the support. So that's a big deal. Basically with the support, you're going to go, if you're here in the States, which I'm assuming that's who's going to be watching right now, you're going to ring us up at a normal business time in Kentucky. From Kentucky, once we close at 5 o'clock and you still got questions, you're working on your race car, ring up California. They'll answer your questions. They can even remote in remotely. And then the phones will actually swing to Sydney. So they are they're like a half a day ahead of us, right? So when we are normally working on our race cars, because we all have jobs and we're working, you can still call and get a human on the phone to help you get your car started. Now, with the Rebel, I'm going to get into why you won't even need to call us. So our goal here is to provide the most cost-effective, easy to install, startup tune, and driving experience for an aftermarket ECU for your Gen 3 and Gen 4 customers. Okay, so our goal here is to do exactly what you said. It is to keep it simple and allow you to do this on your own. But obviously, like I said, if you need help, you give us a call. So let's just go through these facts quickly, right? So we've got the product itself is the Haltech Rebel LS ECU Kit. And this is where everybody asks, okay, what's it going to cost me? It is $14.95 US. Okay. This is going to cover the Gen 3 and Gen 4 drive-by-wire or drive-by-cable, right? So if you've got your LS and you have a naturally aspirated engine, a turbocharged, supercharged, or even nitrous, this ECU will handle all of it. Now, I've been asked, what are the horsepower limitations to this ECU? And to be honest, not found one yet. So I'm going to call it 1,000 horsepower plus. And we're talking about wheel horsepower. And I know that all these guys are making 1,000 horsepower with junkyard motors and a cheaper turbocharger. So again, what all do you get? You get the ECU itself, you got the engine harness, you got all the sub harnesses, and select sensors that you'll need that are different than your factory configuration. All right, so you've got two different SKUs. You've got a Gen 3 SKU, which is going to be drive-by cable applications, and then a Gen 4 SKU that's going to be drive-by wire. All right. Now, what did we do? We wanted to simplify the purchase, the installation, and the startup process. So for your consumers, the purchase, installation, and startup process provides the greatest ease and creates the provides the greatest challenge. Can't see where I'm talking. But basically what we're after here is to simplify this process and give you a complete kit, right? So you don't need a professional installation, and you don't need this shop to do this aftermarket ECU install. Okay. Now, can you use that? Absolutely. But we have solved these issues using the Rebel LS. So to simplify the purchase process, we have an all-in-one design of the Rebel LS ECU kit, and it eliminates the need for the purchase of additional accessories, right? So a lot of times you end up with your kit, but it doesn't have everything you need, so you end up buying more stuff. All right, so the $14.95 is everything you need to start and run the engine as far as the engine's concerned. Now, there's obviously a fuel pump and stuff like that you're going to need, but we drive all that directly out of the ECU. The Rebel ECU comes in a box. You've got a terminated harness that's modular, so it allows you to have different engine configurations, different locations for your sensors. You've got all your adapter harnesses for your injectors. You've got a T56 transmission adapter to do your vehicle speed. The LS platform has used a lot of different alternators throughout its build years. So what we do is include all the alternator breakouts. All right. So there are, again, with the same thing with the alternator, there are a few different oil pressure sensors and map sensor options. You get all of it in the kit. Additionally, you're going to need an O2 sensor and an air temp sensor. So we include those with the bungs to weld onto your intake charge pipes or your exhaust pipe. You can see here, so this is a brief overview and a picture of your Gen 3 kit. You can see the ECU top left, and then moving down below that is the modular harness. Next to the ECU, you have the O2 sensor, the air temp sensor, your throttle connection. So when you've got a Gen 3, it's more than likely going to be a drive-by cable. So you can see top right, you'll have your throttle hookup with your idle air control valve. Below that is your EV1 injector breakout, your NOx sensor adapters, because the Gen 3 actually has NOx sensors that are located in the valley. So you have a sub harness for that. And then you have all of your alternator connections there to the right. Now, when it comes to the Gen 4 kit, you see still we have your Rebel ECU, the modular harness, the wideband O2 sensor. Now, this is where things change just a touch. You've got a drive-by-wire breakout in the top right. And then below that, you actually get a pedal connection for the GM Performance pedal or the Corvette style connection for your pedal. Just to the left of that, you'll see your injector breakout for an EV6 style, which is what would come native on your Gen 4. All right, and again, all of your alternator connections right there. I know wiring can be really daunting for some people, but with the pre-terminated and labeled harness, the Rebel LS ECU modular harness allows you to simplify the process. All right. And the Gen 3 or Gen 4 is pre-labeled and drops right over the engine, and it will easily connect to all your factory sensors that you have that we have not provided. In addition, it will connect to your factory ignition sub harnesses, which makes it really easy because those are usually hanging out on the valve covers. Now we also have the wideband we've talked about and the intake temperature sensor. And what those are actually used for is the ECU's integrated self-learning or advanced tuning capabilities of the ECU itself. Your Gen 3, you've got your main harness, your cable throttle sub harness, which is additionally has your idle air control valve integrated into that, EV1 injectors, T56 transmission adapter, which is for your speed sensor. You've got your Bosch alternators, which were some of the trucks. The Delco, which you'll find the Delco alternators on a lot of your early trucks and your Corvettes, Camaros, that generation. And then the Yazaki is the weird one. That's the one you're going to find that's actually on the GTO and G8s, because those are actually a Australian market vehicle originally. You've got your knock sensor adapter for your knock sensors that are in the valley on the Gen 3s. The harness for this is modular in the way that it actually utilizes Gen 4 knock sensors because they're a more reliable and they are more sensitive. So they go on the sides of the block. They're very available, but the harness is actually terminated for your Gen 4 knock sensors natively. So on your Gen 4, just like on the Gen 3, you've got your main harness. However, we move on to the drive-by-wire harness. The pedal adapter, we saw this in the previous slide. All of your alternator, and then it also will include a Gen 4 Corvette style oil pressure sensor adapter, because in the back of the block, you've got your oil pressure sensor, and they have a slightly different family of connectors on the Gen 4 Corvette oil pressure. So just like that, same thing. The map sensor is a Bosch style map sensor on the Gen 4s, at least on some of them. So you'll have a nice adapter. So there is no crimping, no cutting, no splicing. You just plug it in and rock and roll.
All right, let me interrupt you right here for a second.
All right, let's go.
All this looks really great.
Yes, sir.
And at the same time, I'm wondering, people maybe are questioning, okay, where's the best place to put this ECU, in your opinion, on most automobiles or trucks? And number one, maybe more importantly than where to put it, where not to put it.
All right. So in my opinion, I've been doing this for 8.5 years, just here with Haltech. I love to put the ECU and any components like this in the cabin with you because it's dry, it's not as hot. Now, if you are forced to put it in the engine bay, keep it away from heat. Electronics don't like super hot stuff. So if you've got a turbo sitting on one side of your engine bay, maybe move the ECU to the other side. My favorite place on most vehicles is on the tunnel, actually, the transmission tunnel inside the car. It gives you access. Usually there's nothing mounted there on race cars and stuff. And that will allow you to still be able to do things. Now, one thing that I have not touched on is once you do the initial setup on these ECUs, they're Wi-Fi enabled. So you'll be able to use your phone or a computer without plugging into it. So really, when you mount it, make sure you can get to it the first time. After that, you'll be using Wi-Fi anyways.
All right, that sounds good. We've already got a question here, or I should say more of a comment, and this comes from Gert Kaoke, and made a comment that the 2-pin Yazaki should then also apply to the Chevrolet Lumina SS sedan and the UTE that is rebranded Holden Commodore here in South Africa. Is that correct?
That would be correct. Yeah. So that's like I said, any of the Holdens that's when you're going to find here in the States, we know them as a GTO or an SS, but like he said, the Commodore is what you're going to see outside of the US. Honestly, I think you get a little bit of both. But yes, that would also fit that application in South Africa.
And Ken S wants to know right quick, can the Gen 3 be converted to a Gen 4 or vice versa?
Absolutely. And that's what's beautiful about a modular engine harness. So the way that we do, and the big difference between a Gen 3 and a Gen 4 is cam sensor position. And what's great about this harness is the cam sensor, the way we've done it, it will reach the front of the engine, or you can double it back to a Gen 3. So if you're going to do, say, a lot of people, a very popular thing to do is to utilize a Gen 4 cam position on a Gen 3 engine. This harness allows you to do that very easily once you get the mechanical done.
Okay.
All right. You want to move on, Jeff, or
Yes,
do we
sir.
have
Let's
more questions?
keep
All right.
digging.
All right, let's keep going. So I guess we're going to move on from this one, and we're going to talk about the setup wizard. And this is one thing that, like we've been talking about, keep it simple. Aftermarket ECUs pose a threat in most people's minds because they are very technical, and you can go down that rabbit hole, and sometimes it just gets a little overwhelming. Well, the new startup wizard is really great because the goal is always to make the engine run, right? So you put the engine in the car, or maybe it's already existed and you just didn't have a wiring harness and ECU, or you wanted the capabilities of an aftermarket ECU. Well, the setup wizard in Haltech's NSP tuning software, and also the Haltech Connect mobile app, makes everything way simpler. After answering 7, there are 7, but one of them is a throwaway question. 6 basic questions, or optional custom inputs. The customer is prompted to calibrate the throttle, perform an ECU self-test. Behind the scenes, the setup wizard is actually building a complex map so that the engine will run correctly upon first start. We've had a lot of years of doing this, Jeff, and we've tested things on engine dynos. We've tested things, in cars and race cars and cars that are driven on the road. And that's what we've utilized to get this really complex map set up with these 6 basic questions. All right. What engine are you using? And what engine, meaning, is it a 6-liter? Is it a 5.3? You've got a lot of different options for the LS, obviously air quotes LS, to allow you to know your starting point of basic displacement and basic compression. After that, you're going to select your cam size. So is it stock? Is it truck, etc.? Your throttle body, your map sensor, your injectors, and then we're going to round it out by selecting your ignition system coils themselves. So why don't we go through the app real quick, Jeff? I
Sure.
really want to show you this app because it is what is kind of something that's going to blow your mind a little bit, I think. So let's start off with, again, the first question is you're going to name the vehicle. This is a demo of exactly how you would go through this. So we're going to name it Camaro. We're going to go through what is this vehicle description, just so you can have some notes for your tuner or for yourself for later on, because you can always go back in. Now, like I said, you're going to select the engine right here, and you can scroll through, select an engine. Let's just, for fun, we're going to select, I don't know, L94. So that's a Gen 4 6.2. That'll auto-populate your capacity and compression from the factory. Now, if you've gone through and this thing has been worked a little bit, maybe it's a little bit bigger, but that was your base engine, that's going to give you your base calibration for this stuff. But you can change it yourself right there then and that time. Now, here's your camshaft selection. You have 4 different options here. Well, 5th if you want to do a custom one, but your stock truck, stock car, a mild cam, and a race cam. Now, let me tell you something, Jeff. As long as you're close, because we've had an experience here where we didn't really know what the cam was in this Camaro that we got. And we said, okay, well, it's not something crazy. It's not, thumpity thumping so much it's rattling the windows, but it does have a little bit. So we're going to select a mild camshaft. Now, After you select your camshaft, we're going to work through to what we call the air system, which is your throttle body and your aspiration. This is where things get really interesting. So naturally aspirated. Are you turbocharged or supercharged? This is building your map in the background because they all act a little bit different. Now, beyond that, you see right below it there, you got your throttle body. So you notice in the search bar there, it's auto-populated because we selected an L94. Now, if you click on that X, it will actually give you a larger list of throttle bodies that came factory on an LS engine. So we're just going to stick with the L94 stock throttle body and move on to your map sensor. So this is how the engine knows how the ECU knows what your engine's doing. Your input type here, as you can see here, you actually have two different options. Your engine synchronous voltage is like your 0 to 5 volt standard map sensor that you'd see. However, say you don't have a map sensor, the Rebel LS ECU has an onboard 4-bar map sensor. So maybe your factory map sensor doesn't actually read boost, but you have put a turbo on this thing. Well, you don't have to go out and buy an additional map sensor because you got one inside on your ECU. You just run a vacuum line to it, select that. But say you are going to run an LS9 supercharged map sensor because they do read boost level, you can select that from the drop down menu below. Now,
Andrew, real quick,
yes, sir.
can we blow that what you're what we're talking about up a little bit? It's even on my computer, it's small. Can you blow it up
I
a little
can
bit?
try to do that. Let's see what we can do here.
It was larger earlier, and it's a little bit hard to, I think, to read from folks out there with follow what you're talking about.
Let's see here. So it is, since it's being pulled off of the app itself,
Okay.
it is vertical, so that's probably part of it here.
Right.
I don't know if we can make it any larger. Is that any better right there?
Not really, bud. Not
Yep.
really. At least
Yeah.
not on my computer.
Well, technical issues, I guess, here. So what I'll do is I'll run through this and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. So we'll
All right.
finish off here with your fuel system. Now, if you're utilizing the app, which is what we are seeing, which is probably because it's vertical, it does take a third of the screen up versus if it were a horizontal layout. Now, with your 6th step here, I'm just going to read it even further here for you. This is your fuel system. So this is a point where you can easily enable your fuel pressure sensor if you have added that. And that is something I would recommend highly for anybody doing this. Now you're going to look at your fuel pressure regulator reference. That is whether you have it set up like a factory GM with no vacuum line going to your fuel pressure regulator, or you can set it up if you're going to be doing forced induction. You want to hook up a vacuum line to your fuel pressure regulator so that it works properly. This is also the screen you're going to select your injectors. Now, remember I said that it auto-populates what would come on your L94. If you are not running those, click the X and it will list a lot of injectors that we have pre-populated for you. Moving on to your ignition system, this will be your last real question. And this will allow you to select either your factory coils, or you can select through the different coils that you have as an option from GM, or again, you can do a custom. I'm gonna try to work my way through this kind of quick since it's kind of hard to see. After you do that, you're actually going to do the ECU will actually do a self-check for you. Battery voltage, internally voltage, air temperature sensor, make sure it's hooked up and reading correctly, coolant temp, oil pressure, and map sensor. If you do have any of these that are in a fault state, it will want you to fix that so that you aren't, hurting anything. After
And
that,
Andy, I hate to tell you
Yep.
this. When you went to the app deal, you said you were going to check the app deal out.
Yep.
My screen is not, it's almost like the presentation has been locked on mine. And what I'm seeing from some of the folks commenting,
Okay.
I think
well,
it's
we can always just switch back to the presentations.
okay.
What are you seeing right now?
I'm seeing where we were talking about the Haltech, LS ECU ePortrait webinar and the 6 questions at the bottom, engine start via the
Yeah,
setup wizard.
that's all you're seeing there. Okay.
That's all we're seeing. I mean, it's not changed since, we switched over to the app.
Okay. All right. Give me
As-
1 second here.
Okay.
There. Okay. Move down there. There, right there. How about now?
Now I'm seeing something different. It says page 7 ignition system.
All right. Well, there we go. Technical issues. Clicked on the wrong thing. So
Okay.
now you can see the app. Why don't we back up just a little bit and let it play just quickly?
It might be, if nothing else, they've heard the conversation, at least try to
Yep.
put some pictures with the words.
That's right. So this is page 1.
Yep.
This
Taking
is
the Camaro
this is
out.
the easy one, right? So you just need to
Right.
know what are you messing with.
Mhm.
Next, select your engine. You got a lot of options here. So, like I said, we're going to select L94,
Right.
and that will auto-populate all of your how it would come up normally, right? So here we go. We're going to select our camshaft, get close, and you'll be in good shape. Again, aspiration and throttle body selection here. And this is your map sensor selection. This is what I was talking about on board or your factory on the intake manifold. Here's your fuel
Okay.
system.
You do the fuel systems and everything, you get the thing running.
Yep.
And let's just say hypothetically, you missed it a little bit. It don't quite sound right or whatever. Does the system tell you that you're off, or that it's reading something in the engine it doesn't like, or do you have to go back and play with it?
So here's the deal. Right here is where you're going to start getting all of that. Okay? Your checklist. And this is, say you missed the camshaft. That's not as big of a deal as you would expect here. And you can always go back and change it after the fact if you said, oh man, I couldn't find my cam card. So I did find it later. Oh man, this thing's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was. You go back through your wizard, and it helps you with your base map here. Now, you're going to want to do this no matter what, whether it's drive-by-wire or a cable throttle. You're going to want to calibrate your throttle position sensors.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take you all through it. Tells you to calibrate it. Now we're not currently hooked up to an ECU, so it's not going to let us calibrate something that's not there. However, you will get faults if you have an issue. Before you go starting this thing, you're going to want to test things because this ECU actually is going to power your fuel pump and a fan for you without fuses, without relays. That's one really interesting thing about this ECU. So it will actually go through and run tests. It'll turn on the fuel pump. You'll hear it click on. It'll turn on the cooling fan. That way you know what's going on. All right. Now it's going to tell you to start the engine, crank it up. And what's going to happen is that top one where it says check trigger, it is going to spin. Once you're spinning the engine, the ECU is going to automatically detect whether you're Gen 3, Gen 4, or a combination of the two. And that's where things are simplified because you don't have to know what's going on because a lot of times you've not seen inside your engine. So you know what? The ECU is going to do it for you. It's going to do your injectors. And while you're cranking, it's going to actually get feedback from while you're cranking. After your checklist is done, hopefully that RPM right there is sitting at idle, and you've done a very easy walkthrough of getting your engine started. As long as everything's plugged in right, honestly, Jeff, this thing's going to start up for you.
All right, Ken wants to understand about the amperage for pumps and fans and stuff like that. Will the ECU tell you low voltage? Because I know that with you know, what we do here in NASCAR, a lot of times when we have issues with our ECU, first thing they want to know is the battery charged, is the alternator putting out, those kind of things.
Yes. So what's great is you will have readouts for battery voltage. The amperage draw, there is a cap. We want 25 amps continuous for the fuel pump or the fan. These are two individual outputs. They're not run off the same thing. So, but you can actually monitor those in the app or the software itself and find out. That's again, that's a big tool there, Jeff. If you've never had an amp clamp, I'm sure you've used one of those. Your ECU is now your amp clamp. So you
Okay.
don't have to grab additional tools. The ECU is going to tell you how much it's drawing, how much it is, starting voltage and amperage. The ECU is going to do that for you. So you're going to be able to look at it and say, oh, well, my fuel pump, I've either got a restriction or I've got a problem with the fuel pump itself because, it used to draw 15 amps and we're up to 25 amps. There's something wrong. So that's going to give you another diagnostic tool as well.
Well, like I say, this thing is a tell-all. And let me ask the most vital question. I understand that some people can do this, and I'm exaggerating, in 5 minutes. The normal individual, like myself, understands enough about mechanics and everything, can read and understand instructions and directions. And as you've already talked about, it's very well labeled. This goes here, this goes here. What should it take if I was going to put a Rebel on my hot rod tomorrow? How long could I expect to spend doing this?
Well, I can tell you that a coworker and myself, we were recently at Hyperfest and we had a clean slate. So engine and car were all in the right place and it was ready to go. Fuel system, everything, all of that was done. And the two of us went from nothing to running in about an hour and 35 minutes because we timed ourselves. I'd say a single person just working at a normal pace. Now we were hustling and we've done it before, obviously. I would say half a day from nothing to running would be a very easy attainable goal. So if you were to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd say by noon you should be by running pretty easily.
I mean, again, it's easy for somebody to sit there, let's get this thing because we can put it on a Saturday or a Sunday
easily
and go out and do and drive our hot rod around, after we get done that day. If we get started, like I say, 8 o'clock that morning, should be done by lunch and go out and get us a hamburger, a hot dog, a cold beer, whatever your preference might be.
That's right.
Gives you some kind of at least some insight on that. Hey, Robert Koval would like to ask this question here. Going back a few minutes ago, can I convert my Gen 4 DBW to a DVC throttle through the which would be the throttle body selection? Can you tune these kind of things?
Absolutely. So that's what's great about a modular harness. Okay. So say you've got a Gen 4, you're running with an LS3 and you want to go from drive-by-wire to drive-by-cable. It is simply a change in some of your software and it's a change of a breakout. You don't have to do any major wiring. You literally unplug your throttle connection, plug in your drive-by cable connection and you will have a active idle air control valve and a standard TPS. Hook up your cable and rock and roll.
All right, we've been talking about this, and Gert would like to have these 3 questions answered. But
okay,
you kind of have, but at the same time, let's make sure we address them. Does Haltech have training programs for installers? Does the Rebel support, CAN bus and everything like ours, checkout lines, but can't seem to find that kind of information? And will any of Haltech's digital dash displays work with it?
All right, let's start off with the first question.
Yep, the training program.
Yep. So that's kind of what this is the beginning of. All right.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
we are working on dealer training and customer training. And we have been talking about some training courses potentially at PRI itself. So I know you guys are familiar. Usually, if you're watching this, you're going to be familiar with the Performance Racing Industry Show in Indianapolis in December. We would like to work towards doing something like this for people live. And then in the future, potentially doing it online or potentially doing it in person if that's something that we gain enough traction with. The second question was your CAN network. Is that correct? So basically, yes, the CAN will work with all of our products with the Rebel. We are looking into having vehicle CAN integration. It is currently not available on the current Rebels for vehicle specific CAN. So say you've got a 350Z and you're wanting to utilize all of the factory stuff. It doesn't currently have it, but it is been talked about to be able to do so. Now, as far as our displays, yes, if you have a Haltech display, you can use it with the Rebel, no problem. IC7 and then the new UC10 as well. Jeff, can you see my current screen? Is it still on the app?
I had a computer glitch right there. I'm
Oh,
still
no problem.
seeing the app deal at this
Okay.
point in time. Okay.
All right. I'm working on getting us changed over.
All right.
All right, we're gonna get back to the presentation.
Okay. I'm
There we
looking
go.
at the
How's that?
presentation thing. Yeah,
How's that
there
look
we
for you,
go.
Jeff?
All right, we're looking now at the self-learning part of it.
Yes, sir. So now that I get a lot of questions of self-learning and self-tuning, which, like I said, I like self-learning.
Mhm.
We've always had self-learning in our ECUs. However, the Rebel LS ECU uses the most advanced version of this technology. All right, we got idle, the running, the drivability. It's going to continuously get better as you drive it. And say you've got any kind of like changes in weather or anything, like you've driven from Florida, to New York State in the fall, you're gonna have a very different, climate. So this is gonna automatically fix any of the tuning that needs to be done on its own. You don't have to make any changes. So tuning with the app is really easy. However, if you want to fully unlock your Rebel LS and all its capabilities, you're probably going to want to have a Windows-based computer so that you can use our NSP software, which you can see right here is on the right side, right? So you can see on the left, the app is great. It's going to be very simplified because I don't think that you really want to do a full tune on a screen that is very, very small. So
Hey,
with
can you go
utilize,
back to that because we got a
go ahead.
question and I want
Yes,
to
sir.
make sure I point this out. We had one
Absolutely.
question from Will Law who
Yes.
said, does it support automatic transmission? I see you have a transmission icon on there.
Yeah, so the automatic transmission control for an electronic controlled transmission, that is in the works and on its way. It's going to basically what we did is we separated the automatic trans control unit
Mhm.
out of the ECU itself so that you could still have all of your spare inputs and outputs, okay? So automatic transmission control is coming. So stay tuned on that. Our current transmissions will be a non-electronically controlled automatic, like your TH400, TH350, or your T56 or something like that. So currently it is a non-electronically controlled transmission unit, but that is coming. This is something we touched on a little bit, Jeff, is the modular harness design. And we had the question about, Gen 4 with cable throttle. That's where this mix and match of the modular harness is going to give you the ability to change things like your drive-by-wire or drive-by cable, your alternator, or injector types without having to cut and splice and use crimping tools. Now, that is something that really scares people with aftermarket ECUs, is having to do all of the cutting and splicing and stuff, but that we've made it a lot easier with a modular base harness.
Well, you talked about it a little bit when you said, wiring scares people. And with today's type of wiring, pins here and connectors there, when you have to start working, or especially shortening or trying to make another wire, I mean, there's certain people get it right, and there's no way to test them too. A lot of people don't have the capability of making sure that everything is connected, continuity is where it needs to be. So yes,
I agree. And then that was the whole thought process behind the modular harness, and giving the opportunity to, mix and match. You can have a Gen 3, engine with Gen 4 heads with drive-by-wire intake manifold on it. And it doesn't actually care because it's as simple as changing a sub harness. So again, talking about the transmission controller being external, I wanted to talk about some of the additional inputs and outputs and the power distribution a little bit, enabling whoever's using it to control additional things like sensors and lights and switches, relays, solenoids. So you have the power distribution, which we've touched on a little bit with the fans and the fuel pumps. We have a few pre-assigned stuff because it's stuff that we know you're going to need. So you got one that's for ignition and injection, which will allow you to actually monitor your ignition draw, your fuel pump, and a thermofan. Well, we've allowed you to have one extra for you to do whatever you want with it, up to 25 amps. All right, so we've got your what we call a DPO, which is basically something that is going to drive things like solenoids, shift lights, a tachometer. If you are, using something like in a hot rod and you don't necessarily want a big digital display like the IC7 or UC10, you can use your DPO to drive a tach. Now, you have additional analog voltage inputs for things like oil pressure, fuel pressure. If you want to do coolant pressure for your turbo guys, that's something, lifting heads is never fun, but at least you can know what's going on by adding those additional sensors. And then you've also got a couple of extra Hall effect style synchronized pulsed inputs, which is going to be for flex fuel as well. So if you want to do something with E85, which is a very popular fuel these days, the Rebel LS will natively allow you to do flex fuel. Obviously, you got RPM sensors, wheel speed sensors, stuff like that will be those additional inputs. So expandability is something that people want to really talk about. Okay, so we have a lot of different CAN devices. So you've got your displays, your IC7 and your UC10. You can utilize a CAN hub to do even more. You can use EGTs. Say you want to, you're doing a nitrous car, you want to be able to monitor all 8 cylinders really, really closely. You can use a TCA8 as that's our EGT box. We've also got CAN keypads, which will allow you to do a lot of different things. You can utilize that for boost control. You can utilize that to turn things on and off. Then if you want to control the entire chassis, that's when you jump into our PD16 PDM. That is an additional 16 PDM channels to run the entire car, lights, turn signals, anything like your additional fans or a transmission fan. If you want additional O2 sensors, you can do it via CAN. It's a simple 4-wire hookup for that one. A lot of cars these days have a tire pressure sensor. We can do that. We have that. It's an easy, quick 4-wire connection for your CAN. Now, This will show you, you've got your IC7 on the left. In the middle, you've got another wideband sensor. Say you can do up to 8 widebands. So if you're trying to really dial that fuel system in, you can utilize our wideband sensors just via CAN, very easy. This is what your typical CAN device network is going to look like. It's just plugging a bunch of stuff in, honestly. Now we're going to get here to your SKUs for, some of our dealers and stuff like that. This is all of your SKUs right here, and you've got your sensor packs, additional stuff like that. These are all of your SKUs for, say you've burnt up a transmission harness because it flew a little too close to the sun, Jeff. We've never done it, right? Didn't tie something up very good and dropped a wire harness right on your header. Well, you can buy them all separately and very easily. Again, it's that a la carte. You can build and plug and match and play with different things. And it's all available all separately. So
as we go through all this, it gets to looking like it's complicated. But if you listen to everything you said, everything has a place, a purpose, and it has a direction. So it's not complicated. Go back and listen to what you brought and said. We did it in an hour and a half. You should be able to do this in a half a day. So 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that, without any kind of panic situation. So all of that looks exactly like what most. And don't get me wrong, folks, when I say this, but novice people who don't do this on a regular basis, me included.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of this. We want simple, easy to use, easy to start. And my spiel for all of this is it's the easiest unboxing to startup solution for an LS engine on the market. And that's just because that's what I have experienced personally. I've done it for a few years, so I'll give myself a little bit of a one-up on the average user, but anybody can do it, Jeff. I have no doubt that you could have, if you have a 73 Chevrolet pickup truck and you've decided to put a motor out of the junkyard in it, and you say, okay, I want to do this. Once all the mechanical work's done, Jeff, I have no doubt in my mind you could take a half a day with your buddies and get the thing fired up and take it to lunch.
Well, I mean, we had one of one of our viewers today set out and said, hey, you can find the Haltech app at the App Store
right now.
All this stuff here is very simple. It's accessible through normal everyday stuff.
That is exactly what we were after here. One of the things I used to say is we need to take the scary out of standalone, and that's exactly what the Rebel LS ECU has done for this market.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I know we're getting a little bit close to the end of our deal here, Francis and Judy, but I think it's been fun and hopefully educational, and everybody should be breathing a sigh of relief that it ain't hard. Don't be scared.
Yep. One-stop shop.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Great job. I mean, we could have you for another hour, but we just we'll have to schedule another one in the near future. So thank you very much for being with us today. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the ePartrade platform, distributed through our newsletter channels and as well our social media channels. Next webinar will be on sensors with Texas. For more information and update, please visit ePartrade.com. Thank you and goodbye.
ePartrade is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
ePartrade, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
ePartrade really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
Where will you find Farea racing components? Circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop. In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Farea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.